Hello there, everyone, and welcome to this month's installment of the Talking Tim webinar series. My name is Kevin Vita, and I'll be helping facilitate today's webinar. This webinar is sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration and hosted by the National Operations Center of Excellence, also known as NOCO. As a quick reminder, NOCO offers a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. Let me go over a few logistics for today's webinar. All of the attendees are on listen-only mode by default, but we'd like you to stay engaged by using the chat box for identifying yourself and the agency you represent, as well as any additional comments and questions you have during the presentations today. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentations, so we encourage you to ask any questions you have during the presentations in the chat pod as they come to your mind at any time. The questions will be read out loud one at a time by the moderator, and our presenters will answer each question. I would also like to state that this webinar is being recorded, and the recording and the slide deck will be available on the NOCO website within the next few days. So that's all I have, and with that, I'll hand it over to our moderator for today, Joe Tebow, to start us off.
Greetings, everyone. Joe Tebow here, Federal Highway Traffic Incident Management Team, coming to you live in downtown Washington, D.C. at DOT headquarters on a beautiful day. And good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Thanks for coming. Thanks for attending. We have some great information, as always. Before time gets away from me, I want to be sure to thank Kevin Vita and Adam Hopp, all the good folks at NOCO for helping us make this possible each and every month. It's a big task, and we're grateful for them. So without further ado, we'll go ahead. This is our standard disclaimer, as throughout the presentation you may see some items listed and some items being used that's simply good practices for those using them. We don't sponsor or endorse any of these products. So this is our disclaimer. Our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the updates for Federal Highway. We've got a lot of exciting things going on, and some very exciting news on training. And that's where we'll pick up with actually Katie Belmore. You see that Jim Austrich, he sends his regards that he had a last-minute conflict. So he won't be with us today, but our good friend and colleague Katie Belmore will pick up the training refresh for us. And then we have a guest speaker, Florida's Tim Training Dashboard. I'll go over some great information there, Shawn Kinney. And from there, we will open it up and hopefully have some questions and be able to give you some decent answers. And so without further ado, covered these updates for you. The responder training and line of duty deaths, we'll talk about those numbers briefly. And I'll cover we had a great EMS leadership meeting here at DC headquarters, at DOT headquarters, for EMS folks, our good friends in EMS nationwide. I'll talk about that a little bit. There's a EDC 7, there's a UAS workshop, Tim workshop coming up, and that'll be in Texas, and it's by invitation only. The reason behind that is you should be familiar with the EDC 7 initiative, and the states that indicated and are moving forward in their UAS operations were the folks that were targeted for the workshop. So there'll be more in the future, but we started there, and so we're looking forward to that. We're also going to have the 4th Transportation and Public Safety Summit in June. It's going to be a huge event here at DOT headquarters. All of the leadership from not just Tim, but other support organizations, and some political views, and some good champions in the political arena for Tim will join us and share a lot of information here in DC. And next month's Talking Tim is debris removal systems. So we'll talk about the workshop that occurred in the past couple of weeks and give some updates on that. Um, Crash fatalities, the line of duty deaths from the Emergency Response Safety Institute. As you can see from 2019 to where we are right now, you every single one of them's extremely unfortunate. One is too many. 13 as of earlier this month. I know that number has increased by at least one or two, unfortunately, and those numbers will be updated. And we like to encourage you to go to the responder safety website and take a look at the information that they have there for the line of duty deaths and also all of the other information, which is just chock full of it on their site. They do an outstanding job. And share that information. You can use it as as one of your training tools as you do your TIM training to reinforce a lot of your points throughout that training. So this is where we are as of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe now at this point. Like I say, I know those numbers have increased slightly, and one is too many. So let's continue to spread the word for traffic incident management. The EMS leadership meeting that we had here, as you know, the National Roadway Safety Strategy um, has an element of post-crash care for EMS, and Federal Highway has was assigned a couple of action items in there, along with our good friends from NHTSA to address the EMS discipline of traffic incident management. You can see the targets there that we had lined up for the gathering and the tasks that were assigned to us, and we've made some good headway on that. We've completed our implementation plan for EMS and post-crash care. But at this meeting, we had 25 executives from 14 national associations, and 4 of our fellow federal agencies were here all day back in March. And we came upon a lot of topics. There are a lot of challenges out there for EMS, as there are for you and your discipline. Some of these EMS challenges are extremely unique, though. But we understand, to better connect with the EMS community as it applies to TIM, and to advance that life-saving technologies and training for EMS responders. So this was the beginning of this process, and all of the inputs that we received. We encouraged those who were attending to charge on out and advance the TIM training for the EMS community. And many of those have already started, and it was very impressive to see those executives in the associations leave here after that meeting and take immediate action within their areas of influence and responsibility. So that was a great gathering, and there'll be plenty more to come on that as we advance through the entire process. No, go ahead. You can go back there. Thanks, Katie. We have with us today Shawn Kinney, who will be on just shortly. Who's going to give us some very impressive observations of what they've done down in Florida. Jim Austrich, as I said earlier, unfortunately he couldn't make it, so we have Katie Belmore, who's going to pinch hit for him. And most of you know Katie, and been around a long time, and is extremely good at what she does. So that's who we have up for you right today, and I believe it's time to actually pass it off to our good colleague Katie Belmore. Katie.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. Let me just switch over to our other presentation. I know there's quite a few people that are definitely interested in the update we're going to give today. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the update and the launch, the process for the update to the National TIM Responder Training Programs. So this is our 2024 update. And so I'm just going to go through some of the things that were changed from the last one. And then we'll talk through how we're going to roll that out and what the next steps are, and go through that. So I think a lot of you have already seen our approach. We just wanted to change things a little bit to make it clear that this was the new version of the training. However, we have recognized that this photo continues to be kind of part of the people recognize it, right? It's part of the program at this point. So we maintain that consistency, but we went ahead and incorporated in what I would call pink, but the MUTCD likes to reference as coral, the color scheme. So again, you'll see very similar layout, but that color helps you know that this is the most recent version of the training. I was just going to take some time to go through the materials that go along with it. Obviously, one of the most important parts of the training is the train the trainer that we provide, and we do that to help people go out and provide the 4-hour training. So we're obviously going to have an update to the train the trainer guide, and I always encourage people to go back and look at that. We certainly don't have notes in there for the purpose of reading them, but they are there as a good reference. And then anybody not quite as familiar, you know, it does tell you when there's going to be animation in the slide. It does give you some talking points to use throughout. It lets you know where some spots within the training it would be good to customize. And then, of course, there's the reference type material in there. So with the PowerPoint, there will be this updated trainer guide. The overall format of the training is remaining the same for those that are familiar with it. The gray slides, which used to be blue, are the 4-hour materials. They'll stay that way. In the Train the Trainer PowerPoint that we have, and I'll talk about some virtual Train the Trainers that we have coming up here at the end, we have the yellow slides, and those are just for Train the Trainers. Those are just to help describe the best way to present the materials and just give a little bit of additional information for the trainers. And then I think everybody knows, you know, we've set it up. So this 10 years ago wasn't as easy a function. Now it's just pretty normal that the videos are there and then you click forward for them to play. So one of the big things that's a little bit different, and I'll show that in a minute, is the structure. We did rearrange a little bit. We went from 9 to 8 lessons. That's really clearly identified in this new version. In addition to calling out what lesson you're in as you go through it, it'll also reference back to the lesson objective that's being covered by the slides that are being shown through. So, and then just like before, there's lesson objectives at the beginning of each lesson, and then those are reviewed at the end using the TIM timeline. One of the newer parts of the Train the Trainer and the new version of the PowerPoint that we'll have available is going to be the instructor-led virtual training. And I'll show an example of one of these slides. You can see they're designated with a little keyboard on the bottom. And the purpose of this separate version of the training is we've recognized that we'll continue to see people using the virtual method as an option. I mean, we're obviously doing that through FHWA. So this just automatically integrates more interaction with the participants, has more spots where you can ask them to engage and either do that through the chat box, or if you did have a smaller course, there certainly wouldn't be anything wrong with doing that by people raising their hands or just, you know, speaking out, depending on the size of your class. So I'll show that kind of new approach, and then there are also knowledge checks at the end. So that is one of the best practices that we've seen, is just having something at the end of each lesson where you ask people to maybe answer the question and then keep track that they're doing that. And then you know, when we do the Train the Trainer, we make it clear if you don't do that throughout, then you're not going to pass the course, right? That's how we're making sure that even though things are virtual, that you're participating and actively hearing what's going on in the training. So this is just an example. One of the things that we also integrated in was some new symbology or symbols. part of the reason we did this also was to create an identity, a shared identity with the new National Highway Institute version of the training that's coming out. So some of the things like these symbols you see will be the same if you're online or if you're taking the in-person class. And so we're just trying to make it really clear that they're the same materials, are covering the same things, even though obviously when you have the instructor-led virtual version of the training, you're going to see some differences in how it's presented because that, you know, it's being put into a different format. So you can see here the reformat or the reorganization of the training material. The big thing we did is we just combined the old lesson 6 into lesson 3 that got renamed command and communication, helped even out the length of some of the lessons. And then we also renamed lesson 7 as scene hazards and other considerations. And I think the rest of them are the same. So between all of these 8 lessons, if you really go through all the materials, we're still seeing it at about a 4-hour class. Though I do, sometimes people are able to go through it a little bit quickly and incorporate a tabletop at the end. So I wanted to also give you guys a preview of some of the updated videos that we've been able to add. That was one of the things that we were trying to improve. And I have to give a big shout out to a couple of people, John McClellan out there, you know, with Minnesota recording their video, and they have very nice quality videos. We were able to, you know, have some new material in there. I also got some stuff from Illinois and Wisconsin and, you know, Todd there in Pennsylvania. So I just want to make sure I said thank you. It is a little bit harder to get the video just because of some concerns with having so much, you know, the public information requests. But thankfully we do have some new ones in here. So I'll start with, this is just our new responder struck by video. I think we will add some kind of disclaimer at the beginning and just recognizing that some of the videos can be a little hard to watch. So, oh, sorry, let me skip ahead. There we go. And as you can see, as we go through this, it's kind of intended to be a progression from what happens just when responder vehicles get hit, all the way to when responders get hit themselves. So. So like I said, I think the last 3 of those videos in there can be a little hard to watch. But again, it really drives home the point of why our TIM responder training program is so important. And again, when we sent out the first draft of this about 1.5 years ago, one of the repeated comments we got was some updated videos. So hopefully this takes care of that request. There's one more that I'll show, is just the update to the secondary crashes. So fortunately, they continue to happen. So we have some new ones that we can share here. And it's the same as before, where we're just showing the different perspectives, right? Back of the queue, obviously the most frequent one that you're going to see. We have this next one in here that I just keep watching over and over again. I just can't get over this person that just basically came into a stop in the roadway. I'm assuming that maybe they were taking pictures of what was happening, but obviously we all know how dangerous it is to come to a stop on the freeway for no reason in an active or an open travel lane. So this is just giving that same view from same crash from a different view, and then probably one of the more violent ones I've seen here with what can happen with a secondary crash. So real quick, I'll go back to up here. Again, this is an example of one of the slides that we've identified that would be in the instructor-led virtual training. Again, as a cue to the trainer, you can look down in the lower right and you'll see that blue keyboard that lets you know that there's additional interaction on this slide. So for this one specifically, they have that reference to the D drivers. Then you're able to engage the class and say, you know, what type of D drivers have you encountered? Give some people some time to put that in the chat. Or like I said, if you had a smaller class, you could have people raise their hand and answer the question the same as you would do if you were in an in-person class. And then you click forward and the answers come up. So that's just kind of an example, and it's consistent throughout where we use that blue box at the bottom. That's how that interaction is incorporated into the instructor-led virtual version. All right, get back here. The other thing we did update, and again, part of this is for that consistent identity between the online version, as we did just make a little bit of an update to the TIM timeline. This incorporated all of the performance measures. We made sure that at the top, in addition to the roadway clearance time, incident clearance time, we're also identifying responders struck by, which is the newest performance measure that was formally defined since and is included in this training, and then secondary crashes, which has always been there. And then we also just added the vehicles to that timeline. Part of that is to make it more 508 friendly, to help illustrate the point that you're trying to make, as you know, that you have a crash and the traffic that backs up, and getting back to those free flowing conditions. And then obviously the bottom continues to mirror the way that the outline of the training materials themselves. And this one is, of course, covers all the other two clearance time measurements. And then, like I mentioned earlier, just like we did before, we have this timeline at the end, and then it just offers an opportunity for you to click forward and review the lesson objectives with the students. The other big thing that we were waiting for, and thankfully it came out and was officially adopted in January, is the 2023 version of the MUTCD. So you'll see that updated throughout. The big change, obviously, is it's no longer 6I that covers TIM in temporary traffic control, or I'm sorry, traffic incident management areas. It is 6O, so we made that. Obviously, those references are changed throughout. And then there's a yellow slide. I think it's something that'll be important for people to recognize, is that states have 2 years to adopt the MUTCD. So they can either make that decision to adopt the national version, and that's just what they use, or they have those 2 years to develop their state-specific version of the MUTCD, or to update their supplement to the MUTCD. So you might get some students asking questions. The slide that we have that shows the map still references 2009 because that information of which state adopts which version of the MUTCD won't be available until 2026 once that 2-year period is up for the states. So just a little dive into the details, but that is an important one. So, and then I just had one more video. Thankfully, as we move forward, we are getting opportunities to see the training in action. So this one is, you can see here, the fire department is out there setting up cones. I wouldn't say we'll ever have anything that's exactly perfect, exactly the way that we recommend things, but I think this one is pretty darn close. And it just shows that setting up a paper, almost mirroring exactly what we recommend in the training. So just let you guys watch that real quick. And I can't say anything better than seeing those guys all get in and out of the vehicle with their high visibility safety apparel on, paying attention to traffic and making sure that, you know, setting up the temporary traffic control is a priority. So we're excited to have these kind of examples that we're able to now integrate into the training. So what are some ongoing next steps? We're continuing to work with CAPC, so that's the Commission on Accreditation for Pre-Hospital Continuing Education. We had gotten their approval before. That has to be renewed every 5 years. So we're going through that renewal process right now. But the best thing about this is that CAPC has recently come up with a app that that EMS can use to record their training. And this will allow us to just put our QR code in the training at the end. So you can just tell students, you know, if they need CAPC credits, if they'd like to use the course for that, they can use that QR code and record it directly into their app. It goes directly to CAPC. This eliminates one of the hard parts of working through this in the past was capturing the right data, especially for any in-person classes, and getting that information back to CAPC, right? So that was always going to kind of be a hurdle for us. So now that this QR code is there, now that they can just use an app and we can kind of stay out of that, but offer that huge advantage to the EMS community, I think we'll see a lot more use of that. And then hopefully it'll make it easier for everybody. So we're real excited about that. We're just a couple of weeks away from getting the finalization of that. But that's not going to impact our releasing the materials. And then the other thing is we're continuing to work with the National Highway Institute. I mentioned it a couple times earlier. They're in the process of developing the updated version of the online. We've been calling it web-based training. The more correct term now is self-directed training. So we'll be referring to it as the SDT. And like I said, we're working very closely with them to make sure the materials are consistent. We can continue to highlight the fact that the TIM training course at NHI continues to be by far their most popular and most often taken class. And obviously want to see that to continue moving forward. So next steps, I know this is what most people actually care about. The training materials will all be put up on the TIM training website next Wednesday, May 1st, and we will send out email to all of the state points of contact to let you guys know that it's out there. Along with that email, there will also be a link to a WUFU form. And we are going to, because we want to reach out to the states and confirm how each state wants to roll out the materials to their trainers. We recognize that some states work much closely with the trainers that they have identified in the state. There are some states that I know I've already talked to that will be developing state-specific versions of the training. So my assumption is those ones will want to have a separate rollout. But we will be putting a deadline in that email. So any state that we don't hear from by, I think, May 15th, we're going to roll out to we're going to use the list that we have for everybody that's gone through a train the trainer class and send out an announcement that way for people to go know that the materials are out on the website and available for them to download. And then at the same time, we'll be offering, we'll probably start out with 3 and see if we need more just hour-and-a-half overview kind of refreshers for the existing trainers that will just go over in a little bit more detail, obviously, than what I just did. The changes to the training, it'll be like a, you know, Excel version of the train the trainer where we're just saying, hey, here's everything to make sure people are familiar with all the new information and then all the new materials that will be available. So again, if a state tells us they want to handle the rollout or they want us to wait until they update their state specific, we'll do that. Everybody else will get the information in just a generic national rollout. All right, and then I mentioned earlier, shortly we'll be sending out the announcements that we have 3 upcoming virtual Train the Trainers that will be using the new materials. So the first one is going to be May 7th. Then we have one June 6th and one June 25th. how many more we schedule will be based on need and how much interest we get in these classes. Although I can say I haven't even sent it out yet, but people still have the old link, and we have 2 people that have registered so far. So I think we are not going to have a hard time getting these classes full. So I haven't had a chance to check if there's any questions. I think we'll go ahead and hold off on answering those until after Shawn presents. But I'm very excited. We're finally there, and we have some really good materials for you guys, and we're excited. I know one last thing with Jim being gone, he did really want to highlight, where we are with the training numbers, and we've made great progress. We're at 711,000 people trained, but he really sees this refresh and the new materials as another opportunity to kind of reinvigorate the trainers, get them out there, and continue to make progress towards our national goal. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Joe.
Thank you, Katie. Good job. Yeah, it's exciting to see the new training rolling out. The wheels of progress turn slowly sometimes, but at least they're turning, right? And it'll be exciting. And as far as the trainer courses, yeah, let's get some more folks on board. We're always having a constant turnover, revolving door type of scenario in the business that we're in. So we want to make sure that we follow up and keep a strong force of instructors out there to keep this rolling, and institutionalize it in a certain way, right? So that the folks that are out there doing the work have the opportunity to receive the training and not just complete it, but understand it and then practice it. So that's great stuff. And the videos, great videos, drives the point home. The secondary crashes video, I think, are worth their weight in gold. Way too often, folks tend to think about secondary crashes as fender benders, minor rear enders, and this drives home that secondary crashes can be extremely catastrophic. So it's certainly something that they need to be aware of, because all of our TIM practices work towards, reducing secondary crashes along with everything else. So yeah, thanks for that exciting stuff coming up. And so now I'd like to bring on Shawn Kinney, who's graciously given us his time to share with you. Mr. Kinney's served as TIM program manager for the Florida Department of Transportation for the last 9 years. Prior to joining FDOT TIM program, he spent 7 years with FDOT Emergency Management as a domestic security manager. As the FDOT TIM Road Ranger program manager, he's been instrumental in the modernization of the TIM program and development of information sharing applications and technological changes designed to be compatible with future technologies. So Shawn's got some great stuff to share with us. Shawn, thank you for coming on, and go ahead, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to share what I like to refer to sometimes as my sacrificial offering to the training universe. Let me pull up my presentation here real quick. Can you see the main screen, the main presentation?
Not yet, Shawn. At least I'm not seeing it.
All right, let me try a different approach.
There we go.
Are you seeing the presentation? Or are you seeing the PowerPoint?
Well, I'm seeing the National TIM Responder Training Update PowerPoint So if you wanted to use a different view.
I promise you this worked a minute ago.
We know it did.
Yeah, you saw it, right?
Yeah, we did.
All right, so let me go ahead and do this. Zoom, share. There we go. That should
There
be
we go.
better.
Yes, sir.
All right, so if I can recompose myself for just a second. One of the things when Grady mentioned about the possibility of talking Tim and talking about training and dashboards, everybody's, dashboards are no longer the new thing. They're fairly commonplace. So one of the things we've strived to do with our dashboards is to try to get the best story to the masses. What would we want leadership to know? What would we want our partners in traffic incident management to know? So really the purpose for our use of the dashboard is to leverage technology to demonstrate where we're at in a clear, concise manner, but also to identify focus areas for future training initiatives. On the right side of the screen, you see our numbers. These are directly from the state updates, the national updates that Katie provides. I think we are have the most trainers trained in the U.S., but we aren't the top training state in the U.S., which that always kind of frustrates you as a manager. It's like, well, if we have the most trainers, we should have the most responders trained. But you can see the numbers and the percentages here. Responders trained by discipline. We've hit our mark in towing and recovery at 1,320. Our transportation and public works at like 2,474. We've got 100% of those, but it's the areas that we haven't hit the 100% that kind of drive what we're attempting to do. So back when we started talking about reinvigorating the program, re-energizing the program, one of the things I wanted to do is to put it in a place where you had to see it, you had to be reminded of it, that you really, it gave you a target to shoot for. So I worked with our consultant team to develop a dashboard, and we'll get to the like a live demo of it here in a minute. But I wanted to kind of share that that struggle and realize that training is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a long distance event. People will always need training, and people will always be there to be trained. And there will always be a need for people to have that calling to train them. So we have our status here. One of the first thing, another set of parameters that kind of drives how we look at training is to recognize and accept our challenges. Our biggest challenge from my perspective in Florida is how we market training events and resources. And I think one of the first places, and you have the same struggle in your states, is we as the agency administering the program have to change the perception of our TIM support agencies in our states of the value that traffic incident management brings to their team. What's in it for them, the old carrot versus the stick. What's the benefit? How does this help my agency do our jobs better? The next part of our training and marketing of events and resources is talking about leveraging key and active TIM partners. And that kind of goes hand in hand with that next bullet of identifying strategies to reach out to our cold market. In a previous life before emergency management, one of the things I used to do was mortgage broker. And you know the people that you know, and then when business slows down, you got to reach out to your cold market, people that you don't know, that you don't come in contact with on a regular basis. But it always helps to talk to friends to find out who those people are. So I want to brag for just a minute on Florida Department of Health, Mr. Ty Carhart, to being one of those TIM partners who has really helped us with one of our major successes with getting training to the masses that haven't been reached yet. I'll save what that exactly is for the success portion, but I just want you to be thinking about that. Next area is in training challenges is the continuity of trainers, maintaining that accurate list of people that are available to convey the training. Make sure they have updated contact information, which is always difficult. It's always a challenge to make sure it's fresh. Because as you know, people get older, people retire, people transfer, people get promoted. They move to a different office, sometimes in the same organization, sometimes in a different organization. So making sure that we still have that way to get in touch with them is a great challenge. And then the new trainers, the future trainers. As you know, on this call, there are many champions that have been in the fight for quite some time. And finding that next group to replace them, to pass the torch to, is a great challenge. Then probably the bane of my existence at some point is how we report the training, getting the numbers. I am so grateful to Katie, Belmore, Grady, Carrick for the work that they do with capturing this data, because they're getting data from states. They're getting data directly from trainers who are doing the training, but they're submitting directly to the website. And they have the online training numbers that are coming in. And they report by discipline, they report by state. And that last bullet, the inconsistent submission methods that some agencies use. Some will send you a spreadsheet with breakdown deep in the weeds of where they're from, who they represent, their discipline, the time of day. And then some people will just send you a Word document and said, hey, I had a class and there were 15 people in it. And there's nothing to kind of divvy those numbers up. So a lot of challenges with training and tracking it and delivering it. So I mentioned Department of Health. We've had our successes with training is we were able to work with Ty to have a link for the NHI TIM responder training as part of their continuing education curriculum. So they have a site it's called CE Broker, where EMS and fire and paramedics can go in and look at a catalog of courses that are available to be used as continuing education credits. And so Ty was able to get us successfully into that CE Broker site. And as of this moment, the NHI course is available for anyone looking to do CEUs for their license. So we've been able to attend regular meetings with EMS Advisory Council. Like to brag a little bit for Florida Highway Patrol. They've included their TIM responder training at the next revision of Florida Administrative Code 15B-9. That's their record qualifications and allocation system. And they have the TIM responder training and state law enforcement curriculum. Then last, and the focus of the call, is the development of a training dashboard. We have data back to about 2012. And currently this dashboard is for internal FDOT users. And it really provides information for locations, trainers, and attendants to help us track this. And I'm going to jump right over to, can you see the dashboard, or are you still in the presentation?
Still in the presentation, Shawn.
All right, so let me share this real quick. All right, so
There
we
we go.
should have the dashboard, and this is currently available, like I said, to FDOT users only. In the future, we will have this on the public facing site to be shared. So I'll work left to right, top to bottom. Across the top ribbon, we can sort our data by districts. DOT is separated geographically by 7 districts plus the Florida Turnpike Enterprise. So I can select any district. I'll use District 6, which is our Miami-Dade. And this will provide training data, and it's color-coded based on responders, and the size of the circle is the number of trained. We can zoom in and look, and the locations are based on the trainers that conducted the training. We can separate by year. So if we just want to look at a specific time frame, we can do that. We have the delivery type. We have training versions. Next layer down, on the left side of the screen, we have the number of trainings broken down by district. So we can look at that and know who's been really active, who has not been as active, but maybe that's where we could focus our efforts in the future. We have our number of trainees by district and by year across the bottom. Another piece that we have is our Sharp 2 trainers. All trainers that are current in the state of Florida are maintained in our list, which populates our map. So if we're wanting to focus on a specific area within the state, we know where the trainers are, and we can match up the correct trainer with the agency requesting the training to be conducted. This list is refreshed about every 1.5 to 2 years. We do a direct communication with the trainers to make sure that they're still able to be a trainer, that they're still active in their agency, and then we clean the list out. So let's see, let's get back to that. We have trainees over time, and we have by discipline. And this is all digestible by district if we want to. And what I would like to take away from this is really just our ability as an administering agency to look at a map, to be able to see the active hotspots and the dead spaces on the map to help us focus our efforts for future training. And in the future, we will be revising our dashboard to include specific training locations. So Miami, this is a total number for Miami-Dade for that trainer. So the idea is that there's more than one fire department in Miami. We'd like to know which one it is that's doing all the training and which one that isn't, so we can reach out to them and establish that contact. So a lot of information, a lot of, I would say, struggles, a lot of successes, a lot of coordination, but the whole goal of this dashboard and what we're capturing and what we're displaying is situational awareness. there comes a time where you simply have to change the vehicle that you're trying to use to reach your destination. And I think we're at that point where we need to evolve in the training aspect of how we deliver it, how we track it, and how we follow up. So I'll switch back over to our presentation for that this last little bit. All right, it's not cooperating. So the last one's my contact information. So I'll pause for a minute for questions, comments.
Hey, Shawn, I'll jump in. The fire, the stats that you had up there for the fire for the Miami-Dade, and the one below it was EMS. Is it fair to assume that a lot of that fire bar that showed all those 2,000 and some trained, that some of those were also EMS?
You can make that assumption.
Yeah.
The data is only as good as what's submitted when the people attend.
Sure.
So that would be the goal for future trainings, is to be able to specifically reference what agency they work for and what role they play in the agency. You already do it on your NHI site for the web-based training. We need to do a better job of the in-person training capturing that same data so we can really separate it out.
Gotcha. Yeah. There's actually a question in the chat there that kind of relates to this. I'll read it to you. How are you gathering the total population number of responders to be trained from each discipline to know you trained 100% or any other fractional percentage? How do you delineate fire rescue versus EMS, which pretty much is what we just went through, right? But nonetheless, if you got something to add.
Well, when we started this, you're asking a DOT guy to tell you how many police officers are in the state of Florida.
Right.
And then, you can go to Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which is where we got a lot of our data from, which gives you total numbers. But if you do that, you got to understand that not all police officers are working the road. So you're going to end up with an inflated number of law enforcement. Fire. Does everybody that's fire certified, are they on the road working? Or is admin positions? How much of that is leadership that doesn't go in the field and perform those day-to-day duties? The same with EMS and paramedics.
That's common. It's a common problem across the nation, so to speak. Yeah.
So Bureau of Labor and Statistics was our basis for Florida.
Oh. Good baseline. And let's see. I don't know if I'm missing something here. There's our good friend Todd Lease wants to know how you do you track how many of your trainers actually provide training?
That is referenced in the training submissions that we get. So in a roundabout way, yes. Are we talking to them on a regular basis to verify, hey, are you training this week? Or are you training next week? We don't have that level of contact with them.
Katie, I saw you jump in there.
Oh, I don't want to cut ahead. I had a list of questions I was going to answer, but I'll let you
go for it. No, I'm
okay. Yeah, and then as we'll go back and forth, Shawn, if there's some more questions for you too. So one of the questions was about the flash drives. So any flash drives anybody has received recently would be the old materials. Anything we send out after May 1st will have the new materials on them. It is still significantly easier for people to download things off the new TIM training website. But when we roll out the new materials and that WUFU form that we ask people to fill out from the states, we'll also let you guys request flash drives. We did order a bunch of them that will have the new materials on them. So that'll be part of that request, whether or not you would like us to send you someone on the flash drives. We'll probably have a specific quantity we'll send each state, separate of, you know, for a specific train the trainer class. And so I think that answers the second question too. So we'll send out on May 1st, you'll get an email that sends out and lets everybody know. And we'll include the instructions for anybody that doesn't have an account on the TIM training site, or I can throw that link in the chat too before we leave. So if you don't have one, you know, you can request one. It is limited to people that have gone through the Train the Trainer program or are someone that are actively supporting a TIM program. You know, there's some states where the person that enters all the training records is not a trainer. They're actually like an administrative support person. So we do have an option for that, but the TIM training site and the materials themselves are not out on the general public site. So if you don't have an account and you want to download the materials, I'll put that in there and you can create an account. It usually takes about a day or two to do that. And then for the commentary, there'll be some information about the incidents in the notes. And so that'll be in that Train the Trainer guide that I showed at the beginning. So you'll have that information. At this time, we are not sure whether or not we're going to be able to actually print the Train the Trainer manuals like we did in the past and provide those to the states. So right now, I think the answer would be no, that we don't have them right now. We're not going to have them May 1st. So I would encourage states to look at possibilities for how they might print them. I will say, you know, everything is in color. You don't need to print the Train the Trainer guides in color. You don't need to print the the student handout in color, but they're very intentionally done in colors that look nice in black and white as well. Because we recognize that it's very expensive if you print that manual in color. And I have not really seen anybody do that. So I would just look at that. And then if we are able to secure some funding or have some support from FHWA's print shop, we will let people know. But there's been some reorganization in that. So I know we're not sure if that'll work out or not. And then I just sent out all the virtual Train the Trainer announcements. So hopefully everybody got them. So they were sent out. They're actually sent out to all the state points of contact. And then we have a separate WUFU form that Josie does a great job reaching out to everybody and saying, put your name here if you want to know about the next one. So we sent that announcement to that list. There were about 80 people on it. So that group of people that has been actively asking us when the next ones are also got the announcement of when these next 3 that are coming up are. So I think those were the main questions. There were some questions about the state point of contact list. We did just finish a comprehensive update of that. I can actually send that out to the point of contact list just so you guys have it. But what Vishali is talking about is we also had to go through 508 compliance. So there's a 508 compliant version, and that's what will be posted up to the website. We're just waiting for them to accept that 508 compliant version. And then you'll see that up there. If you're looking on the website or whatever, you'll see that information has been updated. And yes, Christopher, you are on there for Texas, and David McDonald's been removed. So let me see if there's any questions. So to your question, Todd, about being counted as a trainer, so we are never going to remove someone in terms of we're never going to go backwards and say we only train 6,000 trainers instead of 14,000 because that's all that's active. But we do maintain a separate list for each state, and we do keep on there. We have a state report that we've been doing about once a year for states. And that'll say, okay, you trained, 100 people went through a train the trainer course in your state, but as of right now, we're only seeing 20 people active. When we send out for the states that want to be part of our national rollout for the new materials, when we send those emails out, we'll record all the ones that come back as no longer being valid, and that information will be in the spreadsheet. So we do have a way to look at that. The biggest issue we've had with those reports, and I think you guys have probably heard me say this before, but the way the database was developed 10 years ago, it's all free text for the names of the trainers. So the reason we can only do that once a year is it's literally a manual process. Someone has to go in there and count it and put it in there that way, versus if I built it today from scratch, trainer information would be in there and you would just associate it to the trainer. So I think that covers that. And who knows if we might not find an AI solution that helps us do that counting better moving forward. So that might actually be an option we could look at, thinking out loud. So
Yeah. Well, I'm a little jealous of Shawn's dashboard. It'd be really cool to have a national dashboard like that. So, hey, Shawn, thank you so much for that presentation before time gets away from me. Incredible work. I know a lot of time and effort went into it, and it's incredible. I mean, I'm jealous. I'd love to have a national dashboard just like that. But nonetheless, you did a great job, and as Florida always does. So we appreciate your time and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Anything else in the times there in the chat? Anything in the chat?
Yeah, I see a couple more questions. Sorry. I see that I'm way behind in the messages. So someone might have chatted an answer, but I just wanted for the question about if someone works for two agencies, which one is the most accurate? And typically what we would say is, that's why we say primary everywhere. It's what's your day job, right? So if you are a full-time law enforcement, but you're also a volunteer firefighter, we would typically count that person as law enforcement. That is a recommendation we have been giving. I don't by any means expect that has actually been done perfectly throughout, or that it's been perfectly consistent, but that's the best guidance that we typically have been giving people. So it's what do you do more of the time?
This isn't in the chat, but it is for Shawn. Shawn, Miami-Dade, I've seen some photos and some conversation. Even Miami-Dade police also have a fire service or EMS service.
That wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know for sure if they do or not.
Well, I've got a really nice picture of their engine. Yeah, so I was just curious, in a case like that. I'm not sure what it was about, but it just caught my eye. I had to ask. I'll share it with you.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to that whole data collection of people being trained. It's like, okay, what agency do you work for? What's your role? Because I think that role will drive how your numbers divide up with each other. If they're an EMT, if they're fire, if they're rescue, if they're law enforcement. And Joe, you brought up an excellent point. What if they're an EMT certified law enforcement officer? How are you train? Who gets the credit for that one? A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it's a challenge in many arenas. Not that just the law enforcement, fire side, the EMS side, as we've learned over the past several months. That we tend to think of EMS when we think of EMS, you think of fire department. At least that's how it is this part of the world, right? But there's states out there that's just not the case. And one state in particular was 138 individual EMS agencies in the state, of which only one was affiliated with the fire department. So a lot of diversity and challenges out there in the response community.
So the one other question I think got asked is about the 1 hour refresher. So right now it's looking like that will probably be available towards the end of summer, probably early fall, that 1 hour. And then it will take a little bit longer for us to be able to get that on NHI. I think that'll actually, it'll probably take another 6 months after that to make it available also. But we do plan on having it available through NHI and online as well. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I got all the questions. I did see the one from Shane. I just added you to the distribution list, so you're on there now. And I think we got them all. Vishali, did we miss any of the questions?
I don't think you missed any questions, but I thought it was interesting about the Train the Trainer Awards program that Jeff King and the folks out there at Arizona do, and wondered if, Shawn, you guys had ever thought about something like that.
Are you talking a recognition in general, or are you talking about just for trainers?
Recognition for trainers that go above and beyond in terms of the number of training they do, I presume.
We have talked about recognition in general within the TIM program, but I don't know that it's ever come up that way from the state perspective about recognizing trainers within that. I know historically you've had, I mean, a lot of the trainers report their numbers and do all their activity directly with Federal Highway Administration. So we don't know everything that everybody does until after we see it in Katie's report. So it makes it a little difficult to compare what we think we know about various trainers in the state.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very cool. What else? Trying to scan the chat and the Q&A.
Yes. So typically we're trying to target a little more briefer Talking Tim webinars, and we leave the ending to a little bit of a listening session if people have questions at the top of their mind in general on all things Tim, or if they have something to share that they're doing unique or different. So if there are no more questions for our wonderful hosts and presenters today, maybe we can, Joe, shift to a listening session for about 5 minutes and then give people some time back on their calendars.
Absolutely. Open mic night. Happy hour.
So feel free to raise your hand and Kevin Vita can unmute you, or you can share your comment or question in the chat and we'll be happy to bring it up. So I see Todd Lisa's hand is up.
Of course
Kevin,
it is.
Can we unmute Todd?
Todd is unmuted. He can talk if he'd like.
All yours, Todd. Looks like he's having trouble being unmuted.
Maybe just trouble with his audio.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does look like you're unmuted, Todd.
Yeah, he's having technical issues. Unfortunate. Always love to hear from Todd.
Yep, technical issues. All right.
Yeah.
Any else?
I can answer your, I can also, for Mike, yes, that change was already made. So I can confirm that change was made. So. Oh, and I did forget, let me put the website in for the Tim training. I forgot to do that. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, Grady, I see your comment there too, about Broward Sheriff's Office manages the fire rescue function outside of the cities. Maybe that's the engine company I was talking about.
That doesn't help if I send it to you, Vishali. I'll send it to everybody.
Thank you. I feel so special.
Sorry. I'm like, wait, what? Okay. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's it, Grady. Thank you for that link. There's a link in there. Broward Sheriff Fire Rescue. There we go. Take you to the hospital and take you to jail in one trip. Yeah, great stuff.
Right, Todd, any chance your audio has been fixed? Okay, well, perhaps we can call it an early day. Joe, I don't know if you want to close with a little plug for Crash Responder Safety Week.
Well, yeah, it's in the planning stages already. Um, if you're going to make a move on proclamations for your area, now's the time. Actually, past time, if you would, from our experience. That yeah, and one other thing that this is National Volunteer Week, so I'd like to tip of the hat to those that are out there providing life safety services on a volunteer basis. Hats off to you and stay safe. And the I just keep going back to the to the crash videos, the new videos, that the impact that can have when the training class itself, and at all levels, not just first line operations folks, but quite frankly, there are a lot of folks in the executive ranks that need to see that, right? That as I said earlier, you tend to think of secondary crash as a fender bender, rear ender. It'll help to make your business case that traffic incident management program works. It works well, and I profess that the numbers that we see for line of duty deaths is tragic, but I firmly believe it would be much higher if the program was not in use and in practice as a common practice. What we don't know and what we're working on learning is how many non-fatal strikes there are, because I know they're numerous. Vehicle gets entangled into the incident scene. Maybe some injuries are sustained. They're not life-threatening. Maybe apparatus is destroyed. Those are numbers that we just don't know, and I've said it before, they tell a story. So we're all working collectively, all of the organizations, and responder safety, our folks here at Federal Highway, NHTSA, we're all working to try to get a better view and a better handle on the magnitude of the problem, because even near misses or close calls, if we could encourage everyone to utilize the struck by database that responder safety has, to get in there and enter information. And line of duty deaths, as tragic and unfortunate as they are, we find out about them pretty quick, right? We all do. it makes the news. It's a first responder, and it sometimes we find out about it immediately thereafter, and unfortunately sometimes as it's happening live on one of the social media sites. So those things are, those numbers are out there, and we can reach out and grab them. But the rest of those numbers, are telling the story. We know what the tip of the iceberg looks like. Those are the line of duty deaths. But what lies beneath the surface of the water tells a huge, huge story. And I believe we can all learn from that, lessons to be learned from that. So I encourage you to utilize the Struck By forum that's on Responder Safety's website, and help us build a clear picture and reality of what's going on out there. It'll help us all in the long run. It certainly helps build a business case for traffic incident management and the expansion thereof. Yeah, those are the things that are always on my mind. Anything else, Katie, or see any more hands raised? No?
No, I would just say, to really, there's a lot of safety weeks that come up. We had Work Zone Awareness Week. There's EMS Safety Week coming up. And then for Crash Responder Safety Week, which takes place November 18th through 22nd, the all-state planning webinars for this year will begin in July, and those are typically the second Wednesday of each month, July through October at 3 p.m. And so make sure that you key in not only the operations folks that are planning Crash Responder Safety Week activities, but the public information officers to join into those webinars to, get the 411 on what to do and how and when to outreach for Crash Responder Safety Week.
Yeah, good points. Good points. Thank you, Ms. Shalley. One other tidbit there on the FHWA's TIM webpage. There's under what's new, there's the traffic incident management for the rural responder fact sheet. All right, it's another tool in your toolbox as an instructor, or if you're carrying out a shift meeting or a tailgate meeting, something else that you can utilize, topics to talk about, some lessons learned. So there's we're on a quest to constantly keep that information flowing. So please visit and utilize it to your advantage. And well, I think we'll give y'all 16 minutes or so of your time back, I reckon. Thank you all so much for joining us. Over 100, well over 100 attendees. Join us again next month. Traffic incident management, it works. It's working approximately 16,000 times a day when we look at the number of crashes that occur daily. So, thank you. Stay safe out there. Continue to beat that TIM drum. And we'll talk to y'all. See y'all next month. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Thanks again to NOCO and to Shawn, Katie for joining in, and stay safe, everybody. Appreciate it.